Oh, I was going to, or Kiddush. I was going to say Kiddush. Chai l'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. L'chayin Tavoim Uleshana Yismecho Vavo B'Malchuscha Yismecho B'Malchuscha Vavo Shamrei Shabbos V'Goynei Aynev V'Goynei Yismecho Vavo B'Malchuscha Yismecho B'Malchuscha Shamrei Shabbos Good Shabbos, everyone. Reb Steve is away this week, so I'll thank you. I thank you to all of our sponsors today. Thank you to Josh Friedman for dedicating the shir in honor of the Chevra and his wife and his family. Chaim Rabenstein for keeping him healthy, for a complete and safe return for the hostages in Gaza, and a schus for our brave soldiers in the IDF to stay safe as they fight for us on multiple fronts. Incredible. I'll say also it's a good opportunity. Someone mentioned to me that I only thank the Talmud Torah sponsors during Daf Yomi in the morning. So it's Kedai, just a moment, Baruch Hashem, to acknowledge all of those who dedicate all of the Shiurim and Drushos throughout the month. To thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Cheshvan, Stephen Terry Zinn, for dedicating all of the Shiurim and Drushos this month in honor of the birth of their granddaughter, Dvara Eliana Zinn, and in memory of Dr. Zin's father, Bunim Tzvi ben Chaim Zichron Livracha. Shmuel and Rabin Karapkin for dedicating all the Sherman Drushos this month as a zechus for the Fuhr Shlema for Rabin's cousin serving in the IDF, Binyamin Chaim Pesach ben Moshe Chana, and a cremation of the yahrzeit of Rabin's mother, Pesa Mira Bas Chaim Zichron Livracha. Dr. Moshe and Ellen Gevant, dead in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Dr. Gevant's parents, Yaakov Meir ben Moshe Leib, and Shena Bas Abo. And our week of learning sponsors, Judy Posner in memory of Shimshon Lazer ben Moshe Zichron Livracha, Chaim ben Eliyahu Kohen Zichron Livracha, and Dinel Yehuda ben Shimshon Lazer Zichron Livracha. And we thank again Baruch Hashem this year in 5785 Tafshin Pehei, we are zochet to have an annual Talmud Torah sponsor, the Tilson family of Eretz Yisrael, who have dedicated all of the shiurim and drashos of this year, the entire year, as a zechus for besoros tovos for their mishpacha and for all of Am Yisrael. And we'll say, as always, we hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, Baruch Hu Merit Hashem return our hostages b'shalom and b'karov. Baruch Hu shall allow our holy soldiers to be successful b'chol ma'asei yedeim, and to return to their families as well b'shalom or b'karov. Well, so with that, let us begin. So we have tonight, we're going to do two pieces. One is in Tzav Zeruz, and the other is in Ish Kodesh. So hopefully we'll get to everything tonight. So again, if you have Tzav Zeruz, if you have the Sefer, you have the first part of this, and I will say, of course, as always, a tremendous thank you to Reb Tzvi. Where's Reb Tzvi? Again, a tremendous thank you to Reb Tzvi for the beautiful spread. Was Reb Yaakov Bornstein. So really, Reb Tzvi and Reb Yaakov, I will say, you have to understand, I stumbled in here a little early, and I saw Reb Tzvi. Reb Tzvi was working away in the kitchen, Baruch Hashem. At 7 o'clock, he was not sure what he was making yet. It wasn't sure. It was either mac and cheese or poppers. But Baruch Hashem, we went with the poppers. Baruch Hashem, we went with the poppers. Baruch Hashem, and really, also, just you should know, like we come in and we enjoy and we eat, but just understand that. So Reb Tzvi and Reb Yaakov they give up of their time. They give up of time at home. They give up of dinner time. They give up of family time. And Baruch Hashem, they come into shul to ensure that we have just a beautiful Erev Shabbos experience, really a To'amel. To'amel already on Erev Shabbos, Baruch Hashem, it's so beautiful, so delicious. So, Chaver, thank you so very much. Shkoyach. Thank you. All right, so we'll say, so tonight we're going to do two pieces. The first is a piece from Tzav Zerus. We are continuing in Meretz. Actually, interestingly enough, tonight is actually one of the final pieces in what we'll call like the formal part of Tzav Zerus. We're going to see the next couple of pieces I'll call it a little bit more informal. You'll see what I mean when we get to them. But remember again, Tzav Zerus is the Piagetna's journal. So as I speak about every week, this idea that it's a much more informal way of writing. That this is, anytime a person journals, right? What's the whole chap of journaling? Is you take your innermost thoughts and you write it down. So it doesn't have to be intellectually coherent, right? And it doesn't have to be sourced. And it's an expression of whatever it is that is churning inside of your heart. And what's so beautiful is that this Sefer gives us a window into the heart of the Piagetna, and really into the struggles that he had, into the things, the theological struggles, the emotional struggles, how he wants to grow, what he wants to do. So we're picking up in section Chav Tes. So I'd say right now, this is probably one of the more esoteric pieces that the Piagetna highlights, but it's a really fantastic and incredible idea. So let's go through it. We'll take it a little bit slowly. He says as follows: Olam, Olam. So we'll see, this is beautiful. So the Piagetna, he's talking to the world. Like this, he's talking to the world. World. Es sotcha eini yodea. I don't understand your secrets. So let's say, you have to understand something. So this Sefer was written in the Pashtus in the 30s, because actually, interestingly enough, the next section in Lamed we know was written in 1932. So again, I don't know the years over which the Piagetna wrote Tzav Zerus, but Pashtus sometime early in the 30s. And this is incredibly important because, again, we'll discuss, actually probably next week share a little bit more, that the Piagetna discusses some of the turbulence in between World War I and World War II. That comes up a little bit more in next week's piece. But I will say, but it's very powerful. So the Piagetna says, world, I don't understand the way you work. I don't understand the way the world works. The way he frames it is, as sotcha eini yodea. I don't understand your secrets. I don't understand. I don't understand what it is that happens in the world. V'achar sodcha lo echkar. And I will say, this is incredible. And then the Piagetna says, and by the way, I'm not going to try to understand your secrets. See, I will say, one of the most incredibly beautiful things about Chassidus is the highest level of emunah is acceptance. The highest level of emunah is a heightened level of acceptance and a recognition that no matter how hard I try, no matter how much you learn, no matter how many intellectual horizons that you may conquer and overcome, there's always going to be a gap between what I understand and the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world. And when you're able to accept that, it gives a person a certain sense of tranquility, which sounds strange, right? Because we often think that where does tranquility come from? Tranquility comes from understanding. The more you understand, the more tranquil you are. But the truth is, it's not true. Notice, if I were to ask you, who are the most tranquil people you know in life? Most tranquil people? I'm sorry? Dummies. Good. Let's reframe that a little bit, right? Good. Right? Somebody else said it. Children. Why? Because they're not very thoughtful.
They don't even know to think how the world works.
Because they're asking questions all the time.
Not little children, not young. No, they're not. There's an innocent curiosity, but there's absolutely no desire to understand everything. I'm talking about little, like just you're right. There comes a certain level where the intellect is activated, and then everything. But like young children or dummies, right? Again, this idea that you look around the world and the most content people are not the intellectually astute people. That's not who it is. The interesting of the contentment in life comes sometimes from a pashtos, from a simplicity. Now, you have to be careful, because sometimes ignorance is just a mask, right? There are people who choose to remain ignorant in life. So the benefit of being ignorant in life is ignorance is bliss. And by the way, it's really true. It's really true. Ignorance is absolutely bliss. There is a beauty in it. The problem is that if you choose to remain ignorant, you also miss out on a whole variety of other things. So there is this other level of bliss, and this other level of bliss comes from, I know a lot, but there's a lot I don't know, and I accept that.
I had that kind of experience a few years ago. Because I used to worry about a lot of things, work and things, but things that I didn't have any control over, and I decided at some point, I'm not going to worry about the things that I can't impact. I can't impact it.
Right. Beautiful. It's a 12-step program. 12-step program.
It's a 12-step program.
Yeah.
There's a famous thing called Desert This gives me I forget the actual words, but basically gives me the strength to know what I should know.
The serenity prayer.
That's it. Right.
The serenity prayer. Yeah. This is like an ikar of any addiction recovery program. Is exactly this idea. Oh yeah, the serenity. This is it. I'm sorry. No. Baruch Hashem. No. Jerry's good. I want to point out, Jerry's good. He's good. It's the other way. This might be the wrong share. I'm gonna this over here. You take that. I was like, but it's true. Like, it's so interesting that, I think when we're younger, like, the thirst for knowledge, we think the more we know, the better off we will be. And again, that is a true statement on many levels. But I think what's incredible is, as we get older, we recognize that the highest level is actually what I'll call it ignorant acceptance. Not ignorant that I don't know anything or that I should remain ignorant, but a recognition that there are certain things I'm just always going to remain ignorant about. And I can live with that. I can live with not understanding. I can live with the fact, and look what the Piaget says, Olam, esodcha in yodea. I don't understand how the world works. I don't understand the secrets of it. It's like, no, don't we deal with this all of the time? Like, stuff happens in life, and I can't make sense of it.
But should you live with it?
I'm sorry?
You can, but should you?
So again, it's a choice. It's a choice, right? In other words, one thing is clear. No one could understand everything. So I think what the Piaget teaches us often is you could choose to live in a constant state of existential angst. Trying to, I need to understand why. So I just feel like I came today. I had to pay a Shiva visit in New Jersey. Just a tragic loss of just a young man who just passed away, just immediately. And just the sheer, I'll call it like horror of life, just a 180 in life, in just a moment. Literally in just a moment. Literally in 1 second, everything is fine. And the next second, literally, the sky is falling. And what are you going to do? How are you going to explain that? Okay, there are some, you could say some beautiful ma'amari chazal, some beautiful ideas, and this, that. There's nothing that explains it. So what do you do? Now, that's on the tragic level. What do you do with that? What do you do that more than 400 days into a war, there are still Jewish men, women, and children being held captive? What do we do with that? How do we reconcile the fact that we're sitting here, Baruch Hashem, enjoying together Erev Shabbos, and there are soldiers young enough to be our children or our brothers who are literally dying al Kiddush Hashem? Like, how does one reconcile all of this? So what the Piazetzna says is, you can't. In other words, it is reconcilable, but it's reconcilable by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this is where my intellect ends and HaKadosh Baruch Hu begins when it comes to making sense of all of these disparate parts of the universe. So the Piazetzna looks at the world and he says, I don't understand your secrets. But I'll also tell you, I'm also not going to try. I'm not going to try. In other words, so I just want to be clear. This is not ignorance is bliss, right? The Piazetzna is not ignorant. You also remember again a couple of weeks ago when the Piazetzna was turning 40? Remember again, he was trying to figure out. Remember, this was the most incredible piece I think that we've ever done with Piazetzna. Remember this piece? Right? See, the problem is when the food is too good, I think people focus on the, we're gonna dial it down next week. Everybody just bring your leftovers. This is gonna be like Ni'ilas Achag and Acharon Shal Pesach. Yeah, this is it. That's it. Right. Yeah. So you remember in the Piazetzna when he turned 40, he was trying to figure out, like, what should I work on now that I've turned 40? And remember what he said? Should I learn more? What did he say? No, I learned enough. So I said, do you understand? Can you imagine saying that? I don't need to learn more, I learn enough. That's not gaiva, it's not arrogance. That's the Piazetzna, self-aware. I will say, again, a person should know who they are and what they are. So Piazetzna, I don't waste any time. I maximize that time, I learn. So when the Piazetzna says, Acharei sotcha lo echkar, that I'm not going to try to go ahead. Reb Yaakov, mamish. Okay. I just totally lost the crowd. I just totally lost the crowd. Right? Literally, I see like the saliva running down. It's like, what are the? All right, we'll break it just a few moments for that. Mamish, the Olam Haza is too good. It's too good. So again, I just want to point out over here. I just want to point out that the Piazetzna is someone who was an incredible, accomplished Talmid Chacham. He knew Kala Torah Kula, but yet he's still saying, I'm not going to try to discover the secrets. Kim Al-Kuri writes, Kim Avdil Prat Mimcha V'Adam Alavino, because at the end of the day, right, Piazetzna says, if at the end of the day, I even separate out one detail and try to understand it. So let's say I don't try to solve all of the mysteries of the world. I'll just try to solve a mystery. I'll choose one thing and try to tackle that. Essentially, it's not going to work. I look at the world and there are so many mysteries and there are so many secrets and there are so many things that I don't understand. And even if I just chose, let me focus on one of them. I'll focus on one thing and nothing else. Even if I focused on that one thing, says the Piazetzna, it still wouldn't work. I still wouldn't understand. In other words, the Rebbe is saying it's not a question of value. Right? Even if I only wanted to focus on one thing, I still couldn't make sense of that. But Piazetzna says, but if on the other hand, I contemplate the following. Maybe everything in this world is a mystery. Maybe everything. You know, both say, you ever wondered to yourself, I think about this for the last little while. We think like the greatest mystery is, why do bad things happen to good people? Yeah. Right? That we think about that as the greatest mystery that exists. There's another mystery. Why do I have the brachas that I have? We kind of forget about that because often we sometimes we adopt the mindset of like magia li. It's owed to me. It's owed to me. But I will say, the truth is, for many of us, I know for myself, if I were to look at the brachos that I have and line it up against the behaviors that I engage in, they don't line up. They don't line up. I have much more than I deserve. So the Piazetzna says, you look everywhere and nothing makes sense. It's not just the suffering that doesn't make sense. To be honest, the brachas also. Right? It's just that you never really hear people complaining about brachas, right? You never hear somebody say, I can't understand why I'm entitled to this parnosa, or why should I be entitled to health, or why should I be entitled to this, right? Because it's human nature that just, what is it? Like, today's luxury becomes tomorrow's necessity. So like today's bracha just becomes tomorrow's item taken for granted. But the Piaget says you look around the world, and at the end of the day, it's also, even if I try to isolate and I try to look at one thing, he goes ahead, Rak me'ulame hasod u'mistori razov min hashotim asher yischak mu'lahavin hein. And again, anyone who tries to figure this stuff out, it never works. It never works. And you end up deficient. You end up looking foolish because you're trying to understand the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs his world. As, B'istakli b'sodcha sod Hashem, kam lios min mesei sodo, lefamim ani magia, uleitim ani ola. Shabbos said, but this is incredible. Piaget says, but here, so listen to this. This is fascinating, and here, Shabbos say, is so much of the essence of the hashkafa of Chassidus. So the Rebbe writes something amazing. He says, but when I stop trying to understand, and instead I just focus on acceptance, they will say, this is an interesting yesod. What is the best way to deal with adversity? This is a good life lesson, right? Good life. What's the best way to deal with adversity? Best way. Thank Hashem. Good. That's beautiful if you're on that level. If you're on that level, that's fantastic, right? Gemara Maseches Brachos, we add in Amud Yomi, Kashem shemevarchen al hara, kach mevarchen al tova. Beautiful. Good. If you're not on that level, because most of us are not there, halavai, we should get there. What else? What do you do? I'm sorry? Go after the problem. Attack the problem. Good. I'm sorry? Accept. Lean into it. So much effort and so much energy is expended on lamenting what is and resisting what is. Hey, you know what says? Interesting halacha in Shulchan Aruch. This is a fascinating halacha. Shulchan Aruch says in Hilchos Avelus. Shulchan Aruch writes, an avel is not allowed to say, person sitting shiva, they're not allowed to say, if I could change this situation, I would. And I'll say, what is the most reflexive thing for a person to say in the aftermath of loss? I wish I could change this. Right? I wish I could. Shalom says you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to say it. Why can't you say it? It's very simple. Because you can't. Because you can't change it. Because there's nothing you could do to roll back the clock. There's nothing you could do to change this. By the way, this is a new level. Chaburah introducing table service. To the Chassidus Chaburah. Tonight's specials. Rameir, thank you. That was beautiful initiative. Shkoyach. So we'll say, it's incredible, right? It's incredible. So at the end of the day, you're not. The halakha says you can't say it. You can't. The most reflexive words to say in the face of adversity and loss. I wish I could change it. You're not allowed to say it because you can't. And therefore, if you say that, that is an exercise in futility and literally, again, a wasting of one's kokos. Halacha says the best way to deal with adversity, lean into it. You know what it's reminiscent? Yes?
Even if you're not in love, how many times you sit if it's only...
Right, correct. I guess correct. What if? Correct. Anytime. It's the model. Let's say, you know what it's reminiscent of? You know, the Gemara talks about the idea that Rabbi Akiva was, the Gemara talks about that was once, he was once, the boat that he was on capsized, and somehow he survived, and they asked him how he survived, and he said, I'll call gal v'gal shaba, every wave that came, nanas yes roshi, I bent my head. So how do you deal with the waves of life? You lean into it. So the Piaget says something absolutely amazing. The Rebbe says, he says, so follow the progression. I've looked around the world and I've seen everything is a mystery. The good is a mystery, the bad is a mystery, everything is a mystery. And so I've decided I'm not going to try to understand the mysteries. I'm just not going to try to understand it. And the Rebbe says something absolutely amazing happens. Sometimes when you accept that the mysteries are unsolvable, and you say, you know what, I'm not spending my time trying to uncover the mysteries, I'm just going to lean into it and go, something amazing happens, which is, you have clarity. That's what he has in that last line. Gamlios min misei sodo, lepamim ani magia, uleitim ani ola. sometimes after that moment of acceptance, that moment of leaning into the fact that, you know what? Life doesn't make sense to me. And there's always going to be stuff that I cannot wrap my head around. And my avoda is lean in. Don't resist. Lean in. Don't refuse to accept. Lean in. Just lean in. Just accept it. Just go with it. Then suddenly says the Piaget, amazingly enough, that births and that yields sometimes an episodic moment of clarity. Not necessarily ongoing clarity, right? Not necessarily forever, but there's like this moment. We'll say, yeah, right. We all have these moments of complete clarity, right? Where life makes sense. Life makes sense. I often find that yes.
It'd be similar to when you're swimming and there's very strong waves. You don't want to swim right into it. You want to swim a little bit alongside it. Because otherwise
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I think absolutely so many different metaphors for this in life. Absolutely. So let's go on. He says, Kidoshenu, Habal Shem Tov Zatzal Amar, Shebeistakel ha'ish becha, es adoncha adon ha'olam roeh. So this is actually beautiful. So remember again, in the first paragraph over here of Chav Tes, the Piagetna is like, he's talking to the world, right? He's not talking to Hashem. He's talking to the world. He says, Olam, Olam, world, I don't understand you. I don't understand you. But then he says something amazing. He quotes over the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov said that when man looks at the world, es adoncha adon ha'olam roeh. What do you see when you look at the world? You see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When you look at the world, you see the master of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'll point out over here that the truth is, on a basic level, there's nothing unique to the Baal Shem Tov, right? The Rambam writes this. Rambam in Hilchos Deos writes this idea that if you want to come to a full appreciation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, first of all, the Rambam says in Hilchos Deos, it's quite beautiful, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Deos, that a person is supposed to love Hashem as a man loves a woman. That intensity, that passion, that desire that exists in a relationship between a man and a woman should be the same type of relationship between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and man, which is fascinating to contemplate also. Which I will say, essentially, what is the Rambam saying? I say, do you know what sometimes our greatest challenge with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is? If we're honest, good time.
Visual creatures.
So number one, absolutely, we're visual creatures, right? Can't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So I'll say, there's something even simpler, which is we have commitment issues. What do I mean? I say, Ribono Shel Olam, I love you. I think you're great. You're the best thing in the world. But I think we should see other people. Like, in other words, like, I'm not really ready to, like, hitch my wagon to, like, I love you. I think you're fantastic. It's not you, it's me, right? No, it's not you, it's me, right? But I kind of, like, think that we should see a little bit, like what's going on out there. We have commitment issues. At the end of the day, that's the biggest problem. Listen, right? If I'm honest with myself, right? Why don't I do all the things I need to do? I'm not committed. It's not theological. It's not this. It's not that. I have commitment issues. But the Rambam says, something so beautiful. He says, so again, if a person wants to build a marriage, a beautiful marriage, so imagine again, Reuven's marrying Rachel. He says, Rachel, I want to marry you, I love you, and here's the deal. I'm going to be a loving, doting, attentive husband on Sundays, Tuesdays, and alternate Fridays, right? That's what I'm going to do, right? And the rest of the time, like, I need time for me. I really need time for me, right? So again, if Rachel is a smart lady, what is she going to do? What's she going to do? Run for the hills, right? Run for the hills. This guy is not a keeper and not marriage material. What do you need for a complete and successful and meaningful and happy marriage? 1,000% unequivocal commitment. My wife has to know that I am there. I'm not going to be perfect, but I'm there, I'm present, I'm in, I'm committed. If that doesn't exist, the marriage will slowly but surely fray. That's just what happens. So the Rambam says that a person has to love HaKadosh Baruch Hu like a man loves a woman. What does that mean? How can you compare the love of God to an intimate relationship that a husband and wife share? Doesn't even compute, but it does compute. It computes because you understand that the cornerstone of marriage is unbridled commitment. So the cornerstone of relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is unbridled commitment. The Rambam says, so how do you come to fall in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? It's beautiful. The Rambam says, how do you come to fall in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Nature. So the Rambam writes again, look in the natural world. This is such a good season for this, right? Because fall, everything turns beautiful colors. It's really like it's inspiring. It's inspiring. And nature is the tapestry of the Ribono Shel Olam. So at the end of the day, the Rambam says, look at nature, you'll fall in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but love is not enough, right? Love is never enough. Right? What else do you need besides love? You need commitment. So the Rambam writes that when you look at the world, you could fall in love with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Piagetna says something similar over here, but he really means something a little bit different, right? It's not the same idea. He says, when a person looks, now remember, the Piagetna is talking to the world. He's talking olam, he's talking to the world. When a person looks at the world, so when a person looks at the world, what does he see? He sees Hashem. He sees Hashem. Also, this is Rabbi Soloveitchik. Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, quotes, he had beautiful essays on tefillah. And he writes, I'm trying to remember the context. He writes about the fact that people experience HaKadosh Baruch Hu through different ways. And one of the ways that he describes is like through nature. He calls it the volitional medium. He describes nature. And he says, when a person sometimes stands under the starry sky, he sees the breath of infinity against his neck. He was quoting William James. Hey, so like this idea, and we know this, sometimes like you're in nature and you're so overwhelmed by nature, that it is a spiritual experience. Why is nature a spiritual experience? It's not because of nature. It's because of what nature represents. Nature is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And through nature, I come to an appreciation of Hashem. But look what he writes. So the Piagetna says, it's the same thing. Now, Piagetna maybe is or not referencing nature. But what he's highlighting over here is that when I look at the world, I see the master of the world. He goes on, so also this is incredible. But remember, the Piagetna says, but even when I look at nature, I think I see God. I almost like catch glimpses of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? I will say, like, you ever in a crowded area, like in a crowded place, and you see someone across the room, and like, I'm pretty sure like that's my friend Ruvain, but like they turn away, and like especially if it's like a good friend, there's like that excitement. There's excitement. Oh, I saw a chaver, and then they turn away. It's like so close, so. So Piagetna says, again, I will say, this whole thing is olam esod cheni yodea. I can't figure out the world. But then, when I lean into the mysteries of the universe, when I lean into the challenges, when I lean into the questions, sometimes I gain a glimpse of reality. And sometimes again, or clarity. And sometimes when I look at the world, I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But even when I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even when I see Hashem in the world, it's just a glimpse. Right, it's just a glimpse. Maybe I catch like Moshe Rabbeinu saw, right, the back of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's head kiviyachol, right, the back of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. O panei lo yiro. I catch a glimpse, but I never catch the whole thing. Zosal kol panim mitzatzti shadoncha besodcha mistater. And the Piagetna says, as much as I try to stare, and as much as I try to look, world, speaking again to the world, your master hides himself from me. So say, just understand how profound this is. Right? This is the Piagetna, tzaddik, yisod olam. And you would think for the Piagetna, someone like the Piagetna, he must see HaKadosh Baruch Hu with such clarity. He must commune with HaKadosh Baruch Hu with such clarity. There must be such a sense of heightened connection. And yet, what is the Piagetna saying? Sometimes I have difficulty seeing the Ribono Shel Olam. It's so validating. Right? Sometimes, again, do I know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is here? Of course, I always know. Do I know that His presence is all around me? Unequivocally, I intellectually know it. Do I feel it? Do I see it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. And we think that sometimes the inability to see it or to feel it is a failure in ourselves. It's validating to the Piagetna had this struggle as well.
The pastor hides himself from me. Is he holding something? Or is he...
Say that again.
You said the pastor hides himself from me. Is he holding something? Or just that's his thought?
This is his feeling.
He's not. In general.
Yeah, correct. He's not sourcing it. That's the beauty of it. And remember again, the power of this is he's not even speaking to Hashem. He's speaking to the world. He says, world. Sometimes I look at you, world, and I see your master, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I catch a glimpse, and I try to look a little bit more, but then I can't see. Almost as if the master is hiding himself from me. Lo asahester v'ashadra bilvad ra'isi. Page Shimem Zayin, Rak Gam Es Ha'or V'Gam Es Ha'ester. So we'll say this is incredible. Look at these. So this is why you have to appreciate the context, because without the context, it almost sounds inherently contradictory. The Piagetz writes, not only did I see, Hester means hidden, Heder means absence. Not only did I see the absence and the hiding. I will say, the sentence itself makes no sense, right? Why does it make no sense? You don't see absence and hiding, right? Absence and hiding means you're not seeing something. You don't see something hiding.
You notice that something's missing.
You notice something's missing, right? He says, "Rak games arva games hester." I see the light, and I see that which is hidden. So I will say, you hear the inherent contradiction in those words. The light is revealed. I see the light, and I see what's hidden. So I will say, so when you read this again, it sounds like he says, "Es hasod ki ha'or hu re'isi." I saw the secrets. And ultimately, again, I saw the light. When I realized that you are a great mystery, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, libi v'nafshi asagu re'iyam nismalu. In that moment, it's incredible. In that moment, when I recognize that you are a mystery, my heart and my soul are filled with understanding and sight. So how is that working? The moment I recognize that you are a mystery is the moment that I'm filled with understanding and sight. We'll explain just more. And if I wanted to push myself to understand more, as hakol chalaf, everything would disappear. Ein re'iyah v'lo asaga. There'd be no vision, there'd be no understanding. Shuv hester v'sulov. All there would be is something hidden and nothing else. So I will say, what's going on over here? So this is all an extension of the first concept. Remember again, let's build out the theological construct. So what the Piagetz is saying is like this. I look at the world, and the truth is, it doesn't make sense. The suffering doesn't make sense. The brachos don't make sense. It's very hard for me to construct a rhyme. Sometimes one of the hardest things for us to reconcile is, you learn Chumash, and the beauty of Chumash is that Chumash often kind of paints a picture, almost like a one-dimensional picture of just cause and effect, right? If you follow the ways of Hashem, listen to the mitzvahs, what Chassidus Chaburah say, I'll give you, I'll give you everything. Right? And if you don't listen to me, then all of these punishments. It sounds like so simple, so concise, so black and white. It's great. And then you close your Chumash, and what happens? You look at the world and you're like, well, what happened? What happened between there and there? I don't understand. The Chumash is Chassidus Baruch Hu's word. So what happened between the black and white of the Chumash and life? And the Piagetz says, great question. That is the mystery of the world. That is the mystery. So what do you do with the mystery? So you could contemplate and you could theologize and philosophize. Right? So it's interesting. You should just understand that in general, this is very important to know. So Yiddishkeit, Judaism, didn't really espouse a body of philosophy. We only developed philosophy when other religions developed philosophy, right? So the Rambam had to espouse certain philosophical ideas because that was happening in other religions, other cultures. And there was a concern that if there wasn't Jewish philosophy, Jews would run. There is a very important reason why Judaism does not focus on philosophy. Why not? What does philosophy create? Philosophers, right? And philosophers who in turn create more philosophy, which in turn creates, and where does it get you in life? Virtually nowhere. Judaism is an actional religion. Judaism says, leave the philosophy to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Moshe has got to figure it out. He's got your back. He's running a great world. He's been doing this since the beginning of time. He knows what he's doing. And he doesn't need me to figure out what he's doing. He's like, oh, Silber, come on, give me a hand. Help me out over here. Maybe, lend me a hand. Roll up your sleeves. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not need us for anything. He's running the world just fine on his own. So what do you do when you encounter the mysteries? The Piagetz says, again, here's the choice. Philosophize, right? Theologize, struggle, and fantastic. And what are you going to do? You're going to paralyze yourself because that's what ends up happening. Or, what do? Lean into it. Swim with the current, right? Bend your head to the wave. Just lean into it. Acceptance. Don't try to change it. Accept. Roll with it. Just roll with it. Again, as painful, as difficult as it may be, just go with it. And something that amazing happens. Even though you don't have answers, but somehow in that moment you get clarity. And so the Piagetz says, then I look at the world, and the world, I look at you and I see your master. I see your master, but then I don't see the master. I see him, and then he's hidden. And the Piagetz says, then I recognize, when I accept that dynamic and lean into it, something amazing happens. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is hidden and revealed all at the same time. There's darkness and there's light all at the same time. Because when you're willing to lean into and accept the uncertainties and difficulties and challenges of life, and you stop trying to figure out all the answers to life's great mysteries, recognizing that I can't, something amazing happens. A wave of enlightenment, a wave of understanding, a wave of clarity, and in that moment, the ability to truly see the Ribono Shel Olam. Let's do one more paragraph, and then we'll stop for tonight. He goes, no, I guess we're not going to get to the Ish Kodesh piece, but okay. He says, Lama tischamek kol kach olam, Lama yisparu aborim nizgashim bach, b'shah shebe'emes chalon heichal hamelech ata. So it's so interesting. He says, why is it, literally again, why is it that the world gets away from us so often? Right, that we get so lost. We get so lost in the world in its entirety. And we lose sight. We just lose sight of what it is that we're supposed to accomplish. Instead of recognizing that the role of the world is to be a window into the palace of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See, Rabbi said, listen to how profound and deep this is. If you're willing to accept the realities of life, and willing to accept the secrets and the unknowns, and lean into the challenges, then suddenly again, the world as a whole becomes a window into HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's clarity in the lack of understanding. Now, only Jews could say stuff like that and actually understand things. Like to the rest of the world, that sounds like a contradiction. There's clarity in the lack of understanding. But we understand exactly what that means. The moment I lean into the ambiguity, the moment I accept and literally resign myself, not in a bad way, but accept that I'm not going to figure this whole thing out, is the moment that the world as a whole becomes a window into the palace of the Ribono Shel Olam. V'lamazet tiyagas halei v'tanes hanefesh hashokeka haseres hamasach ve'ef saderch pischacha al makom kachir v'sham etba. Now Piaget says, but sometimes again we can't avoid the frustration. Sometimes the frustration of life is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I just want the clarity. I just want the clarity. I just want the ability to see you directly without all of the challenges. Skip to the last paragraph in Chav Tes. He goes on, he says, Ashri ha'isha ovides Hashem b'chem b'maisa u'machshava ke'achos. Praiseworthy is the person who serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu with unity of action and thought. What does that mean? So just in the same way that when you do something, right, I have to carry out something actional. There doesn't have to be deep thought involved in the actional components of what I'm doing. I just have to get the job done. Sometimes to bring that same level of simplicity in the thoughtful and the cognitive level as well is so powerful. Ve'imchem ve'imachem yachad avodas ala Hashem echad. Mina olam va'ada olam gam yachad. Meresh kol dargin at sofa de kol dargin. Mina olam v'ada olam atakel. And look how he ends it off. He says, from this world to the next world, you are HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Piaget, this is a theme that is echoed many times throughout the Piaget and the Svarim in general. But here he says it in such a beautiful and almost like raw emotional way. Sometimes the greatest way to come closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to stop thinking and to start accepting. Stop trying to figure everything out and just lean into it. Just accept it. Of course, again, on both sides, just to be clear, it doesn't mean that we don't struggle to make things better. It doesn't mean that we don't struggle to make things different. Of course, we do all of those things. But there's such a power in acceptance. There's such a power of leaning into the wave. There's such a power of swimming with the current. If something amazing happens, that resignation or that acceptance is not giving up. So both say, this is a problem. We often think that acceptance means giving up. That sometimes acceptance is giving up. When it comes to relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, acceptance is not giving up. Acceptance is the highest level. Because says the Piaget, sometimes the most beautiful clarity, the most beautiful light doesn't come from reaching new vistas of understanding, but rather it comes from finding the energy, the koach, the ability, the strength to accept. All right, we'll stop over here for tonight. Shkoyach, everyone. Ma'ariv in the main shul. Shkoyach. One could be doing it out of laziness also. 100%. Right. but that's like everything in life. Everything in life, can always be. Same way a person can be doing mitzvahs for covet. For of course, you're right. You're right. That purity of intent is always important.
Knowing that the world doesn't make sense is the only thing that makes